This is the Erin Cruz Show. Politics for the people and by the people. With your host, Erin Cruz.
I'm Audrey Johnson-Shepard on TrumpForAllTV.com, TrumpForAll.us. We're here with the Latinos for Trump, but standing next to me is a gorgeous Erin Cruz, and she's running for the senator, and we want to get out and vote for her. Share with us, what inspired you to get involved?
Well, here's the thing. I was running for 2018 against Dianne Feinstein, and the fact is that we have the top two system. And I did not make the primary, but that's not going to stop us. You know what? Dianne Feinstein, she's up there. She's been in that seat for 25 years. Now she's going to be up for election in 2018. Yes, she's going to be alongside of De Leon. That's going to be a hard choice to vote for. But I'm going to tell you what, those seats, both Kamala Harris' seat and Dianne Feinstein's seat, the Democrats have held them over a quarter of a century. Quarter of a century. And after seeing the run in 2018 and what this has been and the embedded corruption and the division of the Democrat Party of America and California, I decided that we're going to run for U.S. Senate in 2022 against Kamala Harris. And you know what? We've got 4 years to do this. We're going to build, we're going to run hard, we're going to run strong, and we're going to work hard to bring unity to California. Unity, and doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter how old you are, what race you are, what gender you are. If you love America, if you love California, if you love strong family values, if you want principled leadership, if you want representation here in the United States Senate in 2022, join the Erin Cruz campaign and get to work with us. It's called Team Erin Cruz. Go to voteerincruz.com, VOTEERINCRUZ.com, and get involved. Get involved now. And we're uniting California. I'm going to be working with and campaigning for candidates for 2018, and you're going to see me a lot out there pushing candidates for Assembly, State Senate, and United States Congress. This is going to have to be a united front, all of us working together.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yes.
So God has a way how we work things out.
Yes.
So He knows this is not going to be your time, but it's coming up in 2022. And that's great numbers. So now we need our president.
Right.
So we need to carry California.
Right.
We need to turn it red.
Right.
So you're going to help inspire the people.
Absolutely.
What's the one thing you believe you're going to do?
I'm going to help unify. We definitely need to unify and work together for California and for the future of the Republic. And we could do that with events like this and the people. So thank you.
You heard her. You're going to be seeing a lot more of her. We're going to be coming together because we're going to turn California red. We're going to
make California golden again.
There you go. And we're going to build the wall. We're going to do all those great things.
Yes.
Lovely, lovely.
Thank you for joining us tonight on the Erin Cruz Show. We have many, many different guests, varied guests from young to older. I mean, I think our youngest guest is 13 years old, and he's a Patriot, and he's doing great things. But right now, we have a dynamo. He is going throughout the state of California, shaking things up. His name is Ben Bergrom. He is the founder of Frontline America and the co-founder of FightSanctuaryState.com. Welcome to the Erin Cruz Show, Ben.
It's an honor to be on here. Thanks for having me, Erin.
Oh my gosh, no, it's an honor to have you on here. It's just amazing. Tell us about, your activism, what got you into politics, and a little bit about your background.
Well, that goes back a long ways. My parents were missionaries. I was born in Dallas. My parents were missionaries in Africa, so they were 10 years over there. We came back here when I was young, and actually we're supposed to be in the Central Valley. Actually, we started in San Jose. We're supposed to be there for 3 weeks. 20 some odd years later, we're still here in California.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's a long time. It's a good stint.
Yeah,
You're not going anywhere?
You never know what God's going to do and the plans that God has. And I grew up in a country town out of the Central Valley, up in the foothills outside of the Central Valley.
Right.
Learned a work ethic from an early age. But I was born in Dallas. Parents were missionaries overseas. In West Africa, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Niger. My sister was actually born there, so she's one of the lightest-skinned African Americans you'll ever meet. But, all American. And that's one of those things that really frustrates me when I hear people complaining about America. Yeah. that have never traveled around the world, that have never experienced what third world poverty really is. And so we traveled around the world. We settled in the Central Valley in a small agricultural ag community up in the foothills outside of the Central Valley, and learned a work ethic from an early age. And I didn't really get involved politically. I mean, I grew up with great parents that taught me right and wrong, and they taught me to really, they set the foundation for Christian conservatism. Right. And it wasn't really until college that I took that and I started to apply it and say, okay, why are there illegal aliens in my classes that are getting full ride scholarships, and I'm struggle just to survive here, and looking at each situation, why are taxes so high in California, and all the social issues and the undermining of families and the undermining of fathers. And so I got involved in college, started a conservative values company at Fresno State, which led me to help start the Central Valley Tea Party, got me involved with candidates. And just, it was a gradual progression that I felt really the Lord leading me into. From an early...
So part of it is faith.
What's that?
Part of it is faith-based.
Oh, yeah. No, that from an early age, God put a vision when I was about 10 years old that I was going to... Kind of a weird thing to say, but maybe.
No, not at all.
It was the vision of me on a battlefield for the Lord, and that we were going to be fighting, and I was going to be standing beside other warriors. And this was when I was about 10 years old. I remember thinking this. And here, I feel like this is the beginning of the war that we were in. I finished my degrees, got to the state, went into corporate retail for a few years, had my soul sucked out, and then
your soul sucked out. Well, you learned a lot too in the process, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And all of those things, went off track, got involved in drugs and alcohol, and really Satan tried to take my life in a direction that of uselessness, and to a place where God couldn't use me, and God restored my life, restored my path and his direction for my life. And about 2 years ago, when Trump came out and announced it, that was where I really felt God calling me back into getting heavily involved. So I literally started with a Facebook Live video with my daughter in a Walmart, showing how to get around the plastic bag ban in California by using produce bags. And that was the start of my re-engagement in political activism. Many have seen the
So you're a family man too. Let's touch on that.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
you're a family man. So this is very real to you, what's going on in California. You're concerned for the future of your daughter and your family and future generations.
I do what I do, well, primarily because God has called me to it, but really the secondary part is my wife and my two daughters. I'm the protector of our household, but I see my daughters, the future that they are growing into, and it's my duty to give them the best future that I can and to stand on behalf of their future. And so, absolutely, they are the most important people in my life, and so I absolutely do that for them. And actually, one of the things, the turning point in all of this, in Berkeley, April 15th of last year.
Boy, that was a heated time, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was really the crucible. I went there on my own. I didn't know anybody. I mean, I knew the people, my sphere of influence in the Central Valley, but I didn't know anybody in Berkeley. And so, but I felt the call. Like, you'd seen what had happened with Milo's event being shut down, and all these, people out there with masks on. And I'd actually seen those people. I went to the inauguration a few months before that and seen those, these criminals that are just trying to undermine our country. So I felt like I needed to be there. So I went over. My wife was 8 months pregnant at the time with our second daughter, and I decided for whatever reason, she decided to come, which ended up being, yes. Well,
she's a brave woman.
Well, she didn't come to the event, so she came with me, and then I dropped her off to go shopping and hang out with our other daughter, who's 7 or just turned 8 yesterday. But
happy birthday.
Yeah, I dropped them off to do their thing, and then I went out just to observe and report and engage. And my call is shining light in the darkness and exposing the lies of the left and raising up the Christian conservative warriors, the remnant that's here in California. And so that's what I went out there to do. I was having a few conversations, ended up getting attacked, had my hat stolen, went into the crowd of Antifa, got 7 stitches on my head.
Oh my gosh.
6 on my ear, and it was one of those moments.
Wow.
Ended up with a bloody face. That a picture that went viral, went all over the world.
Right.
Well,
I saw that. I was looking up some information about you, and I had forgotten. Time goes so quickly in the political landscape. The issues come, the issues go, more issues come, more issues go. And I looked back, and I mean, it was a fierce moment in time, and it's
yes.
brutal. And I mean, you really were standing up for the good fight and for freedom and the goodness and future of future generations and for freedom, really. And here you are beaten up. It just was, and the photos were horrific. How did your wife and your daughter feel about that?
Well, kind of equally upset, I would say. I had to call my wife on someone else's phone because they ended up breaking my phone as well. And had to tell her, luckily they weren't there. I'm glad they weren't there to actually see it.
Right,
but,
right.
I went in, the beauty of it was I had this sign that said, "Stop liberal intolerance." And at the end of this, I'm bloody. My sign, I still actually have the sign.
They're so intolerant.
Yes, yeah. Well, what the enemy meant for evil, God has used for good.
Mm-hmm.
But that moment when my wife came to pick me up afterwards, the worst part was seeing the look on my daughter's face, the fear in her eyes. She was 6 at the time. And to see that, she couldn't understand it. Why? My dad's a nice guy. Why would people be so mean? Like she does, a child can't really comprehend. And going to the hospital, having to get the stitches, it took her quite a while to really get beyond. I mean, it was every time I'd go somewhere, she would, you could see it in her eyes that she was really concerned. So that was probably the hardest part for me. And I really had to sit down and think, okay, is what I'm doing worth it? Is it worth putting myself in harm's way to fight for what I believe in? And I promised my wife that I wouldn't do anything else until she had our second child.
Right.
And I did. Waited about a month, but I really felt the Lord say, yes, this is what I'm called to do. I don't want to get stitches. I don't want to get bloody.
Well, no one aims to have conflict or get hurt. But, in order to, these are God-given rights that we exercise every day, right? But in order to retain them from the people who are trying to take them away and restrict us, we have to take action and be out there and protest and be forward, have free speech, exercise free speech, and be loud.
Yeah, that's it. And I think about our forefathers, the people, they lost, a lot of them lost everything, and they put their lives on the line. And then the veterans that have come before us that have fought, and many have died. And so to me, this is...
And they're still fighting.
And they're still fighting. And so for me, as a civilian, it's our duty. When there is an attack within our own country, it's our duty as American patriots to stand up and fight back. And so that was what kind of launched Frontline America, and everything else ultimately ended up launching Fight Sanctuary State and what was doing there. And so,
can you tell us? I want you to. I love your story, and I know I'm going to have you back on again. But I want you to share a little bit about these projects. So one of them is Frontline America. Is that, I know you have a radio show. Is that tied into your radio show and Facebook?
Yeah. That was all started. It's all kind of grown to where it is now. So Frontline America is the platform, most of which I do on Facebook, Frontline America with Ben Berquam. Right. And the radio show is Frontline Radio. It's on KGED out of Fresno, the Salem network here.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and so it's designed to do those two things: expose the lies of the left and the enemy, and raise up the Christian conservative remnant. So everything I do within the Frontline America brand, now we have a nonprofit, Frontline America Foundation as well. All of that to help educate on the founding principles of our nation and everything. All of that is designed to expose the lies and raise up the remnant. And so whatever I'm doing within those, it's developing that, whether we're doing, little videos to do that, or actually going out. And one of the competitive advantages, or one of the gifts God has given me, is the ability to stay calm under pressure and in very hostile situations and still smile. And the enemy can't stand it. And so we go out, and that's what I do. I take my camera, I go out and I engage and I document, and I try to find some common ground because not all leftists or not all Democrats are lost. There are some that you can plant seeds with. And then the other ones we're out there to expose, to bring more of the sane people to our side and really raise up the people that are going to stand and fight. Because we're so close, we're a generation away from losing this nation. And so that everything I do in Frontline America is designed around that philosophy.
And I think we're even closer than that to losing California.
Yeah.
We're really super close. We're at the point of, we're at a crossroads.
Yes.
So,
well,
what you're doing is really important.
I totally agree. And this is why, so this kind of comes to Fight Sanctuary State, but it also comes to why you and I are still here. We are called to stay. Now, I have many friends that have left. I've thought about leaving, but I actually, speaking
it's
of
so
vision.
Tempting. That's how you know it's not right.
But you think about that, and it's like it would be like if you had cancer, and you decided to, rather than deal with the cancer, focus on some other area of your body. Obviously, you got to deal with the cancer. You got to deal with that thing that's going to kill the body. And California is that cancer. And so I felt like this is, if we're going to fight, we have to fight. We have to win here. If we all leave California, this cancer is going to spread and destroy the whole country.
It already is spreading.
It is, absolutely.
That's how I view it. I've watched, Washington, Minnesota, Colorado, parts of Arizona, now parts of Texas. It's slowly spreading. Many people who are here in California have left, and many of them are progressive left because they don't realize that they're choking themselves out as far as their legislation and policy and what have you. But they're moving out to these other states. It's spreading. It's not going away. It's actually growing and festering elsewhere. So you are right. Liberalism, progressive left ideologies, communist ideologies are a cancer. Yeah. And they need squashed out with the light of freedom.
But I also believe that right now we're in a pivotal moment where the left has swung so far, that pendulum has swung so far that even sane Democrats are looking at it saying, what the heck's going on?
Right.
Why? This doesn't represent me. This far left, socially debased society doesn't represent me. And so, and one of those issues, and this is where the Fight Sanctuary State comes in, one of those issues that both Republicans and Democrats agree on is protecting American citizens over illegal aliens.
Right. Exactly.
So that's where this, we've got the initiative. Fight Sanctuary State is not just a website. We actually have an initiative. We've got title and summary to overturn the Sanctuary State, SB 54, to overturn AB 450, which criminalizes businesses from working with ICE, and to overturn AB 60, which gives driver's licenses for illegals. And what it also does is it criminalizes sanctuary politicians who break their oath and protect illegal aliens over American citizens.
That's wonderful. So can you, can you please tell us, we're coming to the end of the interview right now. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want people to be able to get your name, what activism you're involved in, and then the websites where they can go to actually get involved, know about your foundation, learn about it, and contribute.
Absolutely. So you can contribute. So Ben Berkwam I'm Ben Berkwam with Frontline America is my primary organization. That is frontlineamerica.com. You can go there, make donations, click support the mission. And then the other is Fight Sanctuary State. It's fightsanctuarystate.com. And the big thing we need right now, because we don't have the support of the mainstream Republicans, is financial support. And so we're looking for some of the bigger donors. We're in conversations with those right now, but all of the contributions that we can get at fightsanctuarystate.com, every bit helps. It's an uphill battle, but I believe on this issue in particular, we can win. And once we win on an issue, we take ground back. We have to stop compromising. We have to go in with the attitude of victory. I believe once we win on this issue, it gives us an opportunity to then reach another issue, start reaching into the culture, and start taking that ground back from the market left.
Wonderful. Well, I'm hoping that people will hear your message and really it will resonate and they will engage and get involved and also financially contribute. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming on the show. We're going to have you on at a future date. We want to really get a good glimpse into, I think, the Fight Sanctuary State, because that's really where it's at right now, is we have to stand our ground.
This is the issue. And I want everybody, whether you're in California or across the country, we need help. This is the issue that we have to win. If we don't have sovereignty, if we don't have border sovereignty, we no longer have a nation. So no
borders, no nation. We need borders. We need to retain our sovereignty. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again for being on the show. God bless you.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
Do you see dead people? Because they're voting in California. Corrupt politicians are using dead people to steal elections. Last October, we learned that a Mexican citizen used a dead man's ID for the last 25 years, and he voted for him multiple times. A CBS investigation found that hundreds of dead people are still voting in LA. By allowing dead people to vote, the Secretary of State is telling you that your vote does not matter. You know what? Your vote does matter. All votes matter. Elections matter. Let's stand together. Let's fight for fair and free elections. I'm Mark Moiser. I'm running for California Secretary of State. I don't see dead people, but I do approve this message.
And now, back to the Erin Cruz Show. Here's Erin Cruz.
Welcome back to the Erin Cruz Show. Tonight we have on with us Tim Donnelly. He's a former California State Assemblyman. He served 2 terms and was candidate for California Governor 2014, winning almost 650,000 votes. In 2006, Tim became a Minuteman leader and is now considered one of the foremost authorities on illegal immigration in the country. Tim has been a staunch defender of our civil liberties, and there is no stronger advocate of the Second Amendment in California. Tim Donnelly is a proud patriot, a husband, a father, an author, and a U.S. citizen. Now, I pulled that from Tim Donnelly's website, but I can attest, ladies and gentlemen, that this is in fact true. He is a strong patriot, and he is fighting hard for the state of California and for you and I. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be on with you, Erin.
Of course, of course. We're just so grateful that you're out there.
Excited about what you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. But really, we're just excited that you're out there and that you're running to represent, people in the state of California. It's a big feat. And you have an uphill battle, but I mean, I just see you every day you're gaining momentum, and it's just remarkable. We want to know about that momentum and what's really driving your campaign, Tim.
Well, it's really the people. I mean, if you saw what happened with President Trump, it was the people who elected him. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the establishment.
Right.
So I'm running against an establishment Republican who has voted for amnesty in the past. He voted to use our military funds for sex change surgeries.
Oh,
and really, our biggest challenge is letting people know that as soon as they know the information, because he doesn't include that in his advertisements. He says he's pro-Trump, even though he bet against Trump's victory. Bet $5,000, as a matter of fact, to a Republican group and then never paid the bet. But today, the momentum's been driven, of course, by an endorsement by a major figure. U.S. Senator Rand Paul endorsed me, and I'm excited and really honored to have it.
Right. Well, I saw that message come through, and it's a testament to the good work you've been doing, that you have done in the past, and that you can continue forward in the future with. People are seeing what your stances are, that you're a man of integrity, and that's important. And people like Rand Paul, his work is remarkable. He stands against the odds, and he's,
absolutely,
yes, and he stands for freedom and the Constitution.
Well, right, he takes that oath seriously to uphold and defend the Constitution, and every provision thereof, including, the Bill of Rights, which encompasses most of our civil liberties. Look, the government was formed to protect our natural God-given rights.
Right,
It is not the dispensator of our rights. It is simply the protector and guarantor, and yet in modern times it's become the greatest infringer of those rights.
Absolutely, I agree.
You don't have to look any further than California to see that, where they want to shut down not just the First Amendment there in Silicon Valley, but the Second Amendment, so you can't enforce your rights against government tyranny. And it's
once you have no
insane.
voice, it's hard to do much of anything, really.
Well,
and
it's amazing
many
how
different
powerful
powers.
that is.
Yeah, and many different powers are controlling the voice of the people. Even in, as you say, even in your own race, you can see you're trying to get the information out, and it's very difficult to do so.
Well, I've been shadow banned on Twitter.
Yes, you and everybody
else.
You
have as well. Yeah, so if you haven't been shadow banned on Twitter and you're running for office, you're not a threat to anybody. You're not a threat to anybody. So.
Right, right. And what is your Twitter handle, by the way? While the listeners have Twitter on their brain, what is your Twitter handle, by the way? So people can go ahead and check it out.
It's @Patriot Not Paul.
Okay.
So @Patriot Not POL.
Okay.
Or you can just look up Tim Donnelly for Congress.
So Patriot Not Politician. Okay, so Tim Donnelly for Congress. Okay, perfect, wonderful. So they can go ahead and take a look there and start retweeting you.
Sure.
And help,
absolutely,
get the message out. So.
Well, it does. I mean, I look at what happened today with this poor girl in Iowa that, has been missing, and everybody's been worried about her. Even the media was covering her story, and then all of a sudden we find out that she was killed by somebody who was not only in the country illegally, but had deportation orders and had a federal detention order on him, meaning, he was waiting for his hearing. I don't understand this. I totally agree with President Trump. If you're supposed to be deported, we should deport you. It's not a penalty.
Story. There's no conversation here. There's no reason to muddle the
There's no
issue.
Hearing. We don't need to spend taxpayer dollars. We don't need to waste time. And it's not a punishment. It's just the consequence of your action of crossing into our country illegally. We're going to get you home safely. No harm, no foul. Go about your business. Please don't come back without a visa or
without
permission.
Right. Come in the front door. Don't come in a window. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm really thrilled that you are just standing on the side of our Constitution and the Bill of Rights and speaking out where many people are a little afraid to do so. They're afraid of what maybe the mainstream Republicans might say or moderate Democrats might say. But you seem, where I view you, is doing a little bit of reading. Everybody calls you hard right. I believe that you're hard freedom. And really you view things from the perspective of where the founders saw things. Very simple.
Look, Erin, I appreciate that. I'm a hardcore American patriot who is a constitutionalist and happens to be a Republican.
Right.
And that's it. And here's the thing. What is going on right now is not politics as usual. What is going on right now is the worst nightmare of our founders who envisioned one day the government literally coming in and picking and choosing who can make a living based on your ideology, picking and choosing who can reach a platform and be in the modern day public square based on your ideology. And when the government the forces very close to the government that are propping up the political establishment, and that covers a lot of Republicans as well who have not been an effective opposition. What's at stake is not whether or not we're going to have, a male or female president, whether or not we're going to have a Republican or a Democrat. What's at stake is whether or not we're going to have the freedom to speak freely, the freedom to worship as we choose, the freedom to have a press that actually tells the truth and exposes the corruption in our government, and then we do something about it as citizens, and we still have some semblance of control over the government that was supposed to be ruled by us.
Right.
Have
by the people for the people.
Us.
Right, absolutely.
Exactly.
And they're using identity politics. They're using all sorts of any way that the media or certain powerful groups can. They're dividing us any way that they
can.
Yeah,
it's tribalism. They're going for the tribalism vote, the racial identity politics, the sexual identity politics, any kind of identity politics.
Anything to divide.
Right,
rather than unite.
But you know what unites people are principles.
Right.
Are principles like freedom, liberty, the rule of law, the right to be, that each of us are created equal in the eyes of not only God, but the law, and that we have the same, that the President of the United States is no higher than the poorest pauper in this country who is legally present.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are those who want to take that away, and they're working very hard to do so. Now, you're a family man. You know, I see you come from a large family of, what, is 14 children, right?
Yeah, I had 14 brothers and sisters.
Right.
Irish Catholics, no TV, okay?
Well, yeah, well, this is important. You know, I think I talk about family a lot, and I like to hear about people and their perspectives and what drives them to be where they're at today. And many times what I see is it's their faith and their family values, you know, that hold them so close to what they're doing. And I'm wondering if that's true for you as well. I know you have several, or shall I say many children yourself.
I have 5 sons. My wife had 2 when I met her. She had been widowed, and I raised them as my own. And we have 2 grandsons. We kept trying for a girl, never got one. Look, I have been fighting this fight so that my children and grandchildren would have a free country, that we would hand them off the bounty and blessings of liberty.
Absolutely.
And not oppression and tyranny, which, you know, were it not for the election of President Donald Trump, I think we would seriously be halfway to the gulags. And a lot of us, see, when you can send armed federal agents or troops or whatever you want to call them to the door of enough loudmouth patriots who are dissenting, the dissenting voices, and you can silence the dissent, pretty soon nobody else is willing to speak up. Right. And, you know, if they thank God, I believe God ordained the election of President Donald Trump. He came in at just the right moment, and he has made all the right enemies because he's exposing the corruption.
Right.
And he's not just doing that. He's waking people up and letting them know there's a lot more at stake in this political junk than just Republican, Democrat, and all the other nonsense.
I like to say to people,
he just tells it like it is.
He does, and I just like to tell people, you know what, you may not like politics. People don't want to talk about politics and religion. Well, I'm going to tell you what, politics loves you. Whether you know it or not, it loves you. It's an important thing to get, be aware of. Definitely.
Well, Erin, politics is coming for you.
It will come for them.
You know, yes. in California, they want so much control over you that they're perfectly willing to let somebody with HIV/AIDS go out and intentionally, knowingly infect somebody else, and they decriminalize that. But God forbid your child want a straw at a restaurant, or
right.
or maybe want a soda.
Want a soda with their Happy Meal or with their sit down. I saw that.
Right.
It's it's outrageous.
They're drilling so deeply down into controlling, and then they want to force vaccinate every single solitary child and not give you a choice anymore, even though we got to the highest vaccination rates in the country by allowing people to make an informed decision. These are the people that call themselves pro-choice. And when I look at all these different things and ways in which they're willing to use government to separate children from their parents so that government becomes their parent. They want to squash out religion and ban the Bible and ban certain books so that government becomes God. That's what's really happening. And so you have to be a dead person. Well, actually, dead people can vote, so they're still sort of involved in the political process.
Rights.
But you have to be mentally, emotionally dead to not care and not want some say in whether or not they're going to dig this deeply into your life and interfere.
Right. So now your platform that you're running on, it's, I was looking at your website. It's very simple. It's freedom-based. Can you tell the people who are listening about where you're coming from, what you believe in, what your platform is, so they understand. I think they get the gist from what our conversation is. But you're running against a Republican, so people sometimes get a little concerned. Well, why would you run against?
I have a hard time putting into very simple, sanitized words on paper how I feel.
Right.
I love my country. I am willing to give my life for my country because this is the greatest country on earth. This is the place that I believe that God ordained to be a shining city on a hill. And so for me, freedom and getting the government out of our lives, except as it is enumerated in the Constitution. That means you throw a set of handcuffs on the government. That means they don't get to tell you what to drink or how much, whether you can have a super gulp or a smaller thing, whether a kid can have a soda with his meal, whether or not you can own this gun or that gun or these types of bullets. I believe that the government should do that which it was charged to do. It should secure the borders. It should do the things with infrastructure that the general public can't do.
Right.
And we shouldn't have legions of public sector union workers who basically have better paychecks than the people who are paying them, and have them, be able to retire and become millionaires on the job, and have our infrastructure suffer, have our military suffer. My God, my opponent voted to use military funds for sex change surgeries, and my son just the other day was the recipient of a $250 grant from the Republican women who raise money for troops who have to buy their own boots.
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe we should be funding boots instead of boobs, I think our
we have to get back to the
basics.
Down. I think we do. We have to get back to the basics.
And the military is one of those things that we do need to fund, and we need to fund it well so they're not putting helicopters together with MacGyver-type, cotter pins and Band-Aids. My God.
Well, we had seen, under Barack Obama, we had seen quite a bit of non-combat aircraft fall out of the sky, literally. And it was a concern, and I am really thankful to President Donald Trump. I do know military spending was approved, and that's top on his list. Peace through strength. Yeah. And we have to be well equipped. That's part of it. And
absolutely. And the other thing, we have to have a Second Amendment. That is the backstop in the defense of this country, not just against foreign invaders like when the Japanese were thinking about invading us, but decided not to when they realized how many guns there were in America. But it's our defense against crime and evildoers and mass murderers or would-be mass murderers, but also against tyranny. Against the government coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to take away your rights. You have a way of contesting that. And that was the original intent of the Second Amendment, which is under major assault, it seems like, every week. And and the other thing I stand for is I'm pro-life. I'm absolutely 100% pro-life. I will be co-author of the Heartbeat Protection Act with Congressman Steve King out of Iowa, and I will be pushing to protect life at every turn.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful to hear. There's some things that politicians, and I know you're a patriot, not a politician, and then that's how you prefer to view yourself, but once you get in that bucket, everybody's looked at as a politician. But they don't want to talk about their faith. They rarely, scantily talk about their family, and they sure as heck, pro-life is something they skirt away from, and I'm glad to hear you speak so fervently about it. I believe that life starts at conception and that they're U.S. citizens. And we need to protect them.
I have a funny question. What other thing in life doesn't start at the beginning?
Right? I mean,
it's the only
thing.
It's
so basic.
It's like this is the only exception in the entire universe is we're pretty sure that life doesn't start when the miracle of life that God created started.
Right.
So that way we can terminate it without feeling guilty, even though people who have abortions oftentimes have severe psychological, consequences for the rest of their lives.
Right. Well, I think it's all just a power grab, control grab. It's also about money. Big government's involved a lot in funding some of this. It's a big
true,
picture.
But I think it's also, I think it goes deeper. I think it's about stealing the minds of the youth.
Well, that's part of it, yes.
So there was a friend of one of my son's friends. He and his girlfriend, they both grew up in Christian homes, and tragically, she got pregnant. I shouldn't say tragically. She got pregnant. These things happen. Tragically, they didn't talk to any adults. And with the way it is in this country, and they're both under the age of 18, they were able to get an abortion, and they chose to get an abortion, and did so without any of their parents knowing. And so there's no parental consent for something this serious. And had they had a
that could impact her body for the rest of her life. She, may or may not be able to conceive in the future. She could have, major health repercussions as a result. It's a big deal.
And these kids are devastated now. They're absolutely devastated by the guilt of what they did. And that could have been prevented. And then it would have just been a thing about, having a pregnancy early in life instead of, having this, this on your conscience and having ended a human life. It's so tragic. And how we got to a point where you don't even need a parent's permission slip for that, and yet you need a permission slip for everything else. My God, they can't go to the zoo without a permission slip.
in the school, right? Or to go on a field trip at school, right? It is that the priorities are off and the perspective is off. But I'm glad to hear that you're outspoken about all of this. What, as far as your constituents are concerned, or your future constituents, what are their three major concerns, Tim? I mean, what do you hear about most?
Their biggest concern right now is crime. And there's been a crime wave across a good portion of the 8th District, which is it starts in Joshua Tree and ends just short of Lake Tahoe. But in the Victor Valley, in like the Victorville, Apple Valley, Hesperia area, there have been a lot of illegal alien gang members who have moved up there. And so people, as a result of that crime wave, are deeply concerned about our borders, about having illegal immigration stopped, about having illegal aliens deported.
Right.
And that, of course, ties into a jobs issue. So jobs would probably be number 2. And number 3 is absolutely unequivocally, our Second Amendment rights and the severe assault on that. And if I could add a 4th one, it's the fact that we don't take care of our veterans. Right. I mean, veterans in California wait longer to get any kind of treatment than anywhere in the country. We have the longest wait times. We haven't done anything about it. We're treating illegal aliens better than our veterans. Right,
and that's a concern I've heard over and over and over again. So where do you stand on Obamacare? I mean, I know President Donald Trump has done pretty much all he can. He has a Congress that's Republican, House and Senate. Yet they can't get much done in terms of shutting the entire thing down. I mean, he's done as much as he can, but where do you stand on that? And do you support buying?
Where I stand is very simple. Ronald Reagan warned us about this 30 years ago, and he said the minute you open the door to socialized medicine, you will never be able to close that door. It is a Trojan horse for socialism. And for me, the only thing that would satisfy me is an absolute unequivocal deportation of the U.S. government out of healthcare and the annihilation and full repeal, absolute full 100% repeal of Obamacare with all of its ugly provisions. And what I would replace it with is very, very simple. I would open up interstate competition so that you could compete across state lines. The minute you do that, insurance becomes a commodity like everything else, and they can't keep it artificially high. And you would have, and there's also, you have to introduce cash back into the system. As soon as people are playing with their own money instead of house money, they care. what things cost. And then they start getting, grouchy, and pretty soon people look for alternatives. And any time that real money is introduced and competition is introduced and the market is free and not fixed the way that the government markets work, then all of a sudden people can buy what they want, what they need. And if we deport all the illegal aliens, my God, we wouldn't have to pay for all their health care. We could start taking care of the people that Adam Smith in Wealth of Nations identifies as those who cannot or will not take care of themselves. The people who are mentally ill, the people who are perpetually poor or just irresponsible. We're going to wind up paying for them, but we could control it and have a whole lot more savings for the average citizen whose healthcare premiums are spiking every year, 50 to 100%, all because they're paying for other people who have no investment and don't have to change their lifestyles and can be as unhealthy as possible because there's no reason not to.
Right. Well, I'm very glad to hear that. I know many of the people who watch the show will be thrilled to hear that and support you on that initiative because it's so important. Now, we're coming to the end of the interview here. We're going to have you back on because we want to talk about some of your work at the border. But right now, could you just give people your name, what you're running for, a little bit about what you're running for office, and then your website where people can get involved, Tim?
Absolutely, and thank you, Erin. Sure. Look, I'm Tim Donnelly. I am a former California State Assemblyman who is running for Congress in California's 8th district, which stretches from Joshua Tree to just short of Lake Tahoe, including all of Inyo and Mono counties and most of San Bernardino. And you can get a hold of me on my website. It's Donnelly for Congress with a 4, the number 4. So Donnelly, number 4, Congress.com. You can also find me on Twitter, Facebook. Just Google my name. You'll find out all kinds. You'll find out more than you want to know. Don't believe
Don't believe the loony left.
Okay. Well, I'm probably the only assemblyman who has his own rap song and has been introduced or interviewed on The Daily Show and The Colbert Report, both. And I was interviewed on The Colbert Report before I was ever even in office. So
well,
what does that tell you? I guess I was making an impact.
Well, and that's what we're meant to do, and we're so grateful that you're running. And definitely, folks, if you can go to his website, take a look at his campaign, contribute or get involved. Time, talent, treasure. He can use it all, as many candidates throughout California can. And, Tim, thank you for being on the Erin Cruz Show. And
thank you for having me on, Erin. I love what you're doing, and it was an honor to be with you.
God bless you, and take care.
Godspeed.
We will return to the Erin Cruz Show in just a moment.
Here is the rainbow I've been praying for.
We really hope that you enjoyed that song from Songbird. She really puts a lot of effort into her music. Please go ahead. You're going to see her link to her music down below in the chat. Click it, open it, watch some of the other music she's put together, and share them with your friends and family. She definitely has a strong message to help make California and make America great again.
And now, back to the Erin Cruz Show. Here's Erin Cruz.
Hello and welcome back to the Erin Cruz Show. We have with us tonight a very special guest, retired Judge Stephen Bailey. He is running for California Attorney General. Brave man, a patriot. I followed his campaign when I was campaigning for United States Senate. He is on location, he's out and about, he's working the campaign trail, and we're just so blessed to have him on the show. I'm going to share with you real quick a little bit about his background. It's vast, okay? If you want to know about this man, Judge Bailey, if you haven't heard about him, you've got to go to his website and read about him because his bio is huge. But basically, from his website, I pulled out little excerpts. It says he's the only candidate with a background and expertise in criminal law, vital, especially right now in California. He was an elected Superior Court judge in El Dorado County for 8.5 years, where he had assignments in criminal, civil, probate, and juvenile cases, and served 4 years as the presiding juvenile judge. Prior to the bench, he was in private practice, handling criminal and administrative law for 19 years. He has a very substantial and lengthy background. He knows his stuff, folks. He was a certified criminal law specialist. He's certified by the California State Bar Board of Legal Specialization. He was also deputy director in charge of legislation for the California Department of Social Services under the late Governor George. Cut off, sorry about that. Judge Bailey is calling on Californians of all political persuasions. That I love, by the way. California is diverse. He's calling on them to unite in support of his campaign to bring a fair and impartial approach to the Attorney General's office and refocus the state top law enforcement position on reducing crime, which we have, it's vast. And I'm going to go ahead and quote. It says, California needs an Attorney General focused on solving our problems, not fighting Washington, D.C. Welcome to the show, Judge Bailey.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you've been campaigning up and down the state. Most people have heard your name. But, you know, I have to tell you, the thing I love about you is you get down to the law. We are in such a state of lawlessness here in the state of California. We need real tough solutions, and I believe that you're the man to do it. And what have you been facing in terms of the constituents, you know, with Javier Becerra being currently in office? I mean, what is the climate out there? Are people really excited to be able to vote for you in November?
Yes, they certainly are. You know, here in California, we've got so many problems. Everything from education to public safety to having ballot titles and summaries written in such a way that, you know, the average voter can, one, read them and understand what is being voted on. And all of those are responsibilities. In much of that is the responsibility of the Attorney General. And frankly, we've got a guy whose, you know, whole focus is every tweet that comes out of Washington, D.C. You know, he can't find a tweet that he doesn't think justifies a lawsuit. And if you don't, you know, if you think California's problems and, you know, tax money is being wasted, this guy is the chief tax waster in California. He's suing the Trump administration for everything from a border wall, which, by the way, Congress had exempted from most of the environmental regulations that he's suing on, to suing the EPA and suing Trump on for discovery. And, you know, you imagine it, there's a lawsuit on it here in California. As a judge for 8.5 years, I know that everything doesn't require a lawsuit. Some things just require sitting down with the other side and working it out. And that's what I did for 7.5 years as deputy director of the Department of Social Services. I worked with Republicans and Democrats in the legislature to solve problems that California was facing. Right. And that's what I want to do as the next Attorney General.
Right. And let's go back one more step, because not everybody who watches the show, or even many people who do, are interested in politics, but they might not understand what an Attorney General actually does. Can you explain that to the viewers? What Certainly. Javier Becerra isn't doing, we know that. That's
right. The Attorney General has a number of different functions. One, the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer in California. As such, the Attorney General's focus has to be on protecting our neighborhoods, our kids, and our grandkids. But the Attorney General's office has a number of other functions, including the Attorney General is solely responsible for going out and getting the guns away from convicted felons, taking possession of those guns and making sure that those people don't go out and continue to victimize our neighborhoods. The Attorney General is also, believe it or not, responsible for writing ballot titles and summaries. So every initiative that you see on the ballot, that is the work of the Attorney General, writing those titles and summaries. What's important about writing a title and summary is that if you're going to vote to repeal the gas tax, you ought to be able to read the ballot title and summary and realize what you're actually voting on. As many of you are going to find out when you get the ballot booklet, it's going to make it sound like you're repealing the pothole work that's being done on your street. Nothing's further from the truth. The politicians in Sacramento raised your taxes, raised your car taxes, and have no intention of spending that money for roads and streets like they're promising you.
And besides the fact that this is out of his hands in a sense, but besides the fact that that's what they said that they were going to raise is not even close to where we were at the very beginning in terms of infrastructure costs that are, it won't even scratch the surface what they're asking to bring in with the gas tax. But the gas tax is a good point, because on that ballot initiative, it's yes on 6, right? You want to
yes
on 6. But the way I termed it was, yes, I want to repeal the gas tax. Yes, I do. Yes on 6. Because the problem is the way they write it is so confusing. And like you said, Javier Becerra has a role in the faulty ballot initiatives. And that's a shame.
Yeah, he's solely responsible for it. So when you feel that you're being misled, you know exactly who to take to focus on.
The Delta Smelt debacle. Was I supposed to, the fish yes or the fish no, or what was that all about? And nobody knows what it's confusing. And it's important we have somebody in there that isn't so much concerned about Democrat or Republican or independent or no party preference or anything else. They're concerned about what is right and good, what is lawful, what is just, what is, they're about the process and serving the American people.
That's exactly right. So, the fundamental role of the Attorney General is to uniformly and fairly enforce the law. Just like, we want our public servants to do. And right now, we're not getting public servants to go do that.
Right. Well, we have right now, and I'm sure you're aware of it, you travel the state and you're talking to many, many people. We have right now what's called the walkaway movement. And with that movement, more Democrats are leaving their progressive counterparts, right? And they're looking to vote for Republicans or looking to vote for people who they can support, who will support, process, the rule of law, freedom, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all of that. the current downfalls of the current AG, Javier Becerra, are huge. Now, he's failing the state of California. Where is he failing, and how can electing you serve all Californians? Because that's what we need to know.
I think here is a perfect example of where he's failing Californians. His responsibility, as I previously mentioned, is to go out and make sure that felons and others that are statutorily prohibited from possessing firearms have their guns taken away from them, as opposed to going out and taking guns away from law-abiding citizens.
Right.
There's a list in California of 10,000 names. Last year, the legislature gave him $32 million to go out and collect those guns. You know how many people he collected guns from?
How many?
And got off the list? 300. $32 million. I mean, that's a pretty darn good payday if you can get $32 million and do as little work as he did last year.
It's costing Californians a lot of money we need and can use and spend in very fruitful ways that would protect our families. That's
exactly right. And, you know, those same felons are the ones that are going out and committing many of the crimes that we're concerned about today. You know, in the last 4 years, the violent crime rate in California has gone up over 15%. On this guy's watch, he hasn't done the job. It's time to get a new attorney general whose focus is on protecting California. And one of the ways of doing that is to go get those 10,000 people and take the guns away because, you know, we have said they are prohibited from possessing them.
Right.
Instead, what is our attorney general doing? He's out trying to register firearms in California and confiscate guns from law-abiding citizens in this state.
It's a shame. And it's upside down and backwards, really.
It is.
It is.
And it doesn't get us justice, and it doesn't protect us. And that's what our focus as Attorney General needs to be. This isn't a Republican or a Democrat issue.
Absolutely,
this is an issue that impacts us all.
Right. And that's why I wanted to bring up the walkaway movement and the more moderate Democrats or, libertarians and independents and centrist Republicans who, because I think that people need to view this on a very basic level. What's right and wrong, and what we currently have isn't serving the population, and it's actually putting us in harm's way. I look at it this way. I'm a mom. My kids are both grown, but they're basically making things that were federal offenses misdemeanors. Things that are misdemeanors no longer a problem, and so the crime is going up. Really, it's not dissipating. It's even more bloated than what they're reporting, because now they're not having to report certain things in a way where we can tabulate, and it's putting us all at risk. And so I'm glad to hear that you're stepping up and you're speaking out about the lawlessness of our AG.
Yeah. And while they're doing those things, reducing penalties for crime, what we're doing to our first responders, our line police officers and sheriff's deputies, is we're requiring them to take down the ethnicity, the sex, the sexual orientation of everyone they talk to out on the street, whether the person's being arrested or not. We're wasting incredible amounts of law enforcement time filling paperwork out for bureaucrats in Sacramento, when what we really need is our policemen and sheriff's deputies out protecting our neighborhoods. Right. But that's not the game in the Attorney General's office. The game is to see how much time we can waste of our first responders. But worse yet, they now have legislation that they're trying to pass this legislative session that would not only eliminate cash bail so that when we put a criminal in jail, they will now get out about as fast as we put them in jail.
Like within 12 hours, right? I mean,
within 12 hours, exactly.
It's insane.
And worse than that, we're going to have law enforcement have to go through a checklist before they can use deadly force. You know, how many people like you and I, like the people watching this show today, are going to be put at risk to be shot, wounded, or killed? You know, we're going to have a state that's going to look a lot like Chicago by the time this Attorney General and the group in the legislature are done. You know, I have kids that live in this state. You have kids. I want my kids to be safe. I want to be safe in my home. And you can't be safe if everybody's spending all their time, everybody being the Attorney General and the politicians in Sacramento, are spending all of their time focused on make-work projects as opposed to law enforcement.
As opposed, my father, he was a police officer when I was a little girl, and while he was getting his master's, and he, my mom didn't know if he was going to come home at night. She was concerned he would go out there, and his job was to be, police, peace officer, and police, and these are sons, dads, brothers, sisters, mothers, these are people too, just doing the good work as servants, and to have to go through for the bureaucrats and do such a thing and put their life on the line where they're hesitating, it's horrific. So now I have to ask you, has that bill gone through, the one you're talking about for the bail? Are they still working on it?
The bail bill passed the Assembly yesterday.
Right.
It now goes back to the state Senate for concurrence on the amendments. Those who are watching this program, you still have time to call your legislator and tell them vote no on SB 10.
Right.
This is a public safety emergency.
This is. So now this SB 10, I know I'm using a little bit of your time for this, but I think it's so important because it all ties together, and
it does.
It does. And this SB 10, are they looking at doing this by next week, or is this something that'll get resolved this week? I mean, are they kicking the can, or are they being real aggressive?
It happens this week, or it doesn't happen. The legislature adjourns at the end of the week.
Yeah.
So, don't hesitate. This is something that everyone listening to this program can join together in. Call your local legislator and tell them to vote no on SB 10, the, quote, bail reform bill, which in fact is going to put us all at risk.
Major risk. I mean, it's phenomenal. I was reading, I saw some of your posts. I think I retweeted something, and I went back and I was looking through, and I was just astounded. I mean, it's bad enough they're legislating straws and they put all these other, initiatives through, but this is frightening.
This is dangerous.
This is very dangerous, and so I'm glad to see that you're taking action. Now, where can Judge Bailey? We're so grateful that you're able to come on the show. Could you please tell us a little bit about your platform and where people can find out more information on your campaign, get involved, time, talent, treasure, part of that is contributing? That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, the basic platform is we need to elect an Attorney General that's going to protect California families, whose focus is on our kids and our grandkids and making California a better place to live. Being number 50 in quality of life is not where Californians want to be, and they've been taken there by the politicians in Sacramento and the politicians from the governor to the attorney general right on down.
Right.
Those of you who want to find out more about me can go to my website at www.baileyforag.com. That's BAILEYFORAG.com. And you can volunteer on that website. You can contribute at the website. Obviously, to get our message out, it costs money. And so any amount, whether it's $5, $50, $500, is very important at this time, because we're preparing our messages and preparing to get out to talk to voters.
Right.
So, Erin, thank you for having me today. I certainly appreciate it.
Well, of course.
And anytime you want me back, happy to come.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we really like that you're working also to bring Californians together. No matter what part of the aisle that they're on, we're at a place where we need lawlessness returned. Our families need a safe place to live, and I want to stay in California. Many people do want to stay in California, so we need to elect people like you. So yes, we will have you back on the show maybe closer to November and get an update for you. God bless you. Stay safe out there, and give your wife my regards.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you. You heard it right here, folks, on the Erin Cruz Show. Judge Bailey for California Attorney General. He is going to knock Javier Becerra's socks off come November, but we need to be a unified effort. Make sure you go and check out his website. Doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. Doesn't matter if you're an independent. No party preference. Take a look. If you respect the rule of law, Judge Bailey is your man.
We will return to the Erin Cruz Show in just a moment.
I want you to listen closely as we play this next video. You can see this video is from Real TT 2020. He puts together these videos and compilations in an effort to spur and provoke thought, and to give people a space where they can see that there's a vision to make America great again. Even amongst all the corruption, we can push through if we have a strong message and we stand together. Here's the video.
An earthquake's out to a girl's guitar, that's just another good vibration. And if you want these kind of dreams, it's kind of
Every single video of his is thought-provoking. His information is down in the comments. Please make sure that you connect. He has so much out there for you to be able to share and enlighten the minds of those around you, be it liberal, Democrat, libertarian, freedom-thinking, Republicans, constitutional, conservatives, you name it. There's a video out there for everyone. So make sure that you like and share his videos today. Again, the link is down below. So on to our next guest.
And now, back to the Erin Cruz Show. Here's Erin Cruz.
So tonight, we have several younger guests on the show, on the Erin Cruz Show, but specifically right now, we have with us Tristan Muradian. There's been an argument on how to pronounce that name. He's the campaign director for Johnny for Congress. And we have Aiden Masali. There's been some controversy on that name as well. Executive Director of Young Passionate Patriots. I'm going to tell you what, these young men are dynamic. They're really doing great things in LA County. But we want to hear from them. I mean, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having us, Erin. We really appreciate being on.
Absolutely.
And thank you.
No, well, it's just so nice to see younger people getting involved in politics. I've been traveling up and down the state, and more I notice the age group is so high, and we need really the younger generations to get involved. This is your country. This is for your future.
Absolutely.
And so we want to know, you're doing some pretty great things. I'm going to start off with Tristan, though, and we'll move to Aiden. Tristan, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got in to politics?
Yeah, so I'm born in the United States. I'm second generation, arguably third, depending on how you look at it. And I just always grew up. My parents never told me how to think in any particular way. They never told me, how to look at anything. They always showed me both sides, and I always determined, what's right and what's wrong. And that's how I always used to see things as a kid, was what was right and what was wrong. And so I was always kind of involved, just watching the news between CNN and Fox and MSNBC. I was absorbing all that information. And I was always kind of in a cinema background because of my family. I was very interested in just the way TV and movies were working. And somewhere along the lines, it kind of transitioned from that to like the media and politics and media, and kind of combined together. And out of that, I guess, came my interest in both politics and media.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. We need people involved like you. You're out there on the ground, talking close to people. I mean, you work really with Johnny for Congress. It's just really, when I see you too, I'm inspired. When I see young gentlemen doing what you do all throughout, especially Southern California, I'm in awe. I'm in awe. So now, again,
yes,
tell us about your background. Tell us what got you into politics. I mean, you just don't jump into politics willy-nilly, and it's not something you just do because, you know? So,
sure. Well, the funny thing about me is I never really planned on going into politics. I kind of just politics chose me, I feel like, a little bit, because I come from a family of businessmen and women, and I planned on going into business like my parents. But I was always interested in politics as a side thing, and I would always have conversations with my dad about politics and history and stuff, because if you're a businessman, if you're a good one at least, it's kind of important to know what's going on in the political world, because it has a direct effect on you. And but last year, I can't believe it's almost a year ago now,
right.
I met Johnny for Congress, and I just fell in love with it and kept getting more and more involved, and the rest is history.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So now, where or when, shall I say, and how was the Young Passionate Patriots Club birthed? I mean, where did that come from? Because it's just such a great vision.
You want to go into that?
Well, yeah, it was an idea of Johnny and mine to put together a youth coalition that advocates for small government candidates, America First candidates, whatever you'd like to call it, all around the country. We're starting here in Southern California area.
Right.
we endorsed you, of course, but right now we're working closest with Johnny Nalbandian. Yeah, we wanted to put something together to give a voice to a lot of the younger generation, you know, the generation after the millennials that seem to be quite a bit more conservative than millennials or even the generation before.
Isn't that kind of interesting how that's happened? I'm glad that you're creating an outlet, because it seems like more and more, I think a lot of the problems that we're having in communities, and especially with our youth, is they don't have a way to channel, one, the information, and then from that information, channel the energy. And if we can put to good use the energy, you know, it doesn't even matter the political ideologies. It's more just they have a way to express themselves in a healthy, functional manner. And this is one way for them to do that.
You bring that up, Erin. It's really interesting that you bring that up, because I was going to actually tell you how I think that kids need to grow up very allowed to think on their own.
Right.
And that's dangerous in this current atmosphere. Is what I'm seeing is that they're growing up with their teachers kind of forcing a certain thought onto them. And that creates kind of just a mindless, droves of people who think the same, who have the same ideology, but that might not necessarily be what they really think. That's just what they think is right.
Right, and, or what they've been taught.
Or what they've been taught. And so their paradigm, what their of the world is like, is not actually what it's like. And so with Young Passionate Patriots Club, if there's a way for people to come together, as you said, doesn't even matter what their ideology is, but just a place for people to be allowed to think on their own without worrying about being thrown out.
Right,
and the worry that a lot of people have.
And I think that a lot, and I've seen this, I've traveled the state, talked to many people, most people, even many Democrats, you see the walkaway movement, they just want good things for their family. They want good things for their community. They want to see their mom and dad, and these kids, they want to see their mom and dad do well in a job. They want to one day go to college, some of these kids, or they're in high school and they have high aspirations. Yeah. They just want good things for their life. What they don't understand is if they're not involved in politics, politics will surely be involved in their life and interest.
Absolutely.
And if they can at least get the good, clean information that's useful, then they can make the decisions they need to make on where they stand and their belief systems. And I'm so glad to see that you're involved, and you're standing from a perspective of America First. There are a lot of Democrats involved in voting and getting Trump into office. People forget that there are a lot of independents that help him get into office. There are people who want to see America do well and see our initiatives put first. And so seeing the youth have a movement in that direction is just phenomenal. And I'm really excited that you're here on the show sharing with us. So now, what is the goal then up to November for the Young Passionate Patriots Club, to get people involved and then to help other America First candidates get into office?
Yes, eventually our goal is to start help fundraising for candidates, because that's the #1 issue that grassroots type of populist candidates are facing right now, because they don't have the establishment behind them, the mainstream media, the big party elites, the donors. They don't have all behind them. All they have is their heart and their voice. Right. But the system that we have now, it's unfortunate, but you need lots of money to win.
Right, especially when you're combating the ads of the progressive left, who seem to have a lot of money poured into their pockets, and they can advertise. Plus, they also, like in the case of some other some of the candidates that you support, Johnny Nalbandian, he's running against Adam Schiff. It's an established incumbent who he opens his mouth and the media watches. And then candidates like Johnny Nalbandian makes a statement, and he can't even get his statement put on the news.
And we're also facing the problem with social media outlets, possibly meddling with shadow bans.
Are you experiencing that with Young Passionate Patriots?
Not so much with Young Passionate Patriots, but definitely with Johnny's social media accounts.
Yeah, Johnny, when you put his name, there's like a website that checks if you have a quality filter discrimination ban. Johnny's banned on that.
Oh, wow.
Basically the content that we're pushing through his social media page does not reach the audience that he has.
Wow.
It doesn't show up on their home pages.
And we get messages all the time of people saying, I'm trying to share your videos and this and that on Facebook and whatnot, and they're not getting it.
So Facebook is also creating some barriers as well. Yes, I believe many conservatives and America First Patriots are receiving that same kind of treatment from Silicon Valley right now. And I'm glad that you're an outspoken advocate for those people who can't get out their voice. So you're helping push those messages out to the public, which is wonderful.
We need free and fair elections. I think that should stand across the board.
Period.
And fair. Adam Schiff, for example, he doesn't have a QFD ban. So it's obviously not based on just are they a politician or a candidate. It's based on what their beliefs are. And you can see that consistently throughout different elections across the state and across the nation.
Well, I did have that on my particular U.S. Senate run, and I still am experiencing on and off issues. I have, I think, close to 80,000 followers, and I believe the other day I think my reach was 1,500 people. And I had tweeted 20 times or something, you know, and so it's substantial, and I think that more than anything, the way we communicate nowadays, like you're young, you see this more and more. It's on social media. We're communicating, we're networking, we're talking, we're having conversations virtually as to on the telephone or in person. So this is the way we do business. This is the way we do, you know, networking. This is the way we communicate. It's First Amendment rights. And when companies get involved, you know, there's been some argument about whether or not they can, you know, it's their company, what have you. And it'd be interesting to see how the courts treat these systems. But like you say, it's not an equal platform. And in the case of federal elections and state elections, it's a real big problem. So I'm glad you guys are young and you're vibrant and you're speaking out and you're pushing out the truth and you're fighting back against the suppression of First Amendment rights, because if we don't, we'll lose them.
Yeah.
We think this is no big deal. Yeah. It's social media, but really this is how we communicate now.
Mm-hmm. And this is something I hope that the message can get across to the future, the youth, is to know what's happening around them. A lot of people just want to stay away from it. And like you said, in the end, it will come back one way or another.
It will. It will.
Whether or not you're involved right now or not, maybe being involved would have changed something. But you would never know. And so something could happen in the future that may affect you negatively. Right. And then you'll say, well, why did that happen? Well, it's because you didn't get involved at the time it was happening.
It's about like the butterfly effect. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you think it's no big deal, but really everything we do, the way we think, the way we act, the way we respond, it all makes impact on some level or another. So now, we need to know exactly, gentlemen, you know, what Young Passionate Patriots is doing, what website people can go to get involved. You know, I mean, not everybody is young and youthful like you guys and pounding the sand, you know, the pavement and activists. But there are people who can support you. There are people who can help on, you know, social media and help retweet your information. I mean, can you give us the information where people can get involved?
Yes, Young Passionate Patriots is currently on Instagram and Twitter by that name, Young Passionate Patriots. Okay. And follow my personal Instagram, Aiden Masali. I'm sure you'll have it spelled out.
Yes, it'll be in the comments down here, but I want to make sure people hear it from you.
Yes.
Oh, there's also Facebook.
Yes, yeah, and the Facebook group, Young Passionate Patriots also.
So they can join that group and be a part of the conversation and information you're sharing. And right now, are you mainly in Southern California?
Yes.
Okay, and you're growing every day, right? I mean, that's kind of what I've seen is you guys started really small and it just seems like your information is spreading more and more and more. And I would like to see you be a much louder voice.
Yeah, that's the hope.
It's the goal. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, you know, can people financially contribute at this time?
Well, not towards Young Passionate Patriots directly, but what would be even better is if you contribute towards all of the wonderful candidates that we support.
Okay.
Johnny Nalbandian, yourself, and others that you can find out more on our sites.
Okay, so basically you are, I'm just trying to understand and make sure that we're really clear. People can go to Young Passionate Patriots, they can look at your groups, they can find out who you support. You'll have information there about all the different goings on within the political sphere, and people can get involved from there to the interests that best fit them.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
For now, the important thing is growing an audience, and then after that, you know, maybe we can get an actual website going and take off from there.
That would be wonderful. And in order to do that, people need to make sure that they first of all, they need to like your page. They need to join your group. They need to like whatever pages that you have, and network with the people who are involved on your pages, and make sure that they like and share all of your posts, because people don't understand the impact of that chain, of that spider web of people built together. And it really does, it is a way, it's a network where we can all unite. And if it wasn't powerful like it is, they wouldn't be shutting us down like they are. So,
absolutely.
You know, I think that people need to make sure and do that. And they need to also go to your Twitter, which you just provided, which I provided in the comments, and make sure to follow. And also go down your timeline and tweet the different, and retweet and quote tweets, and make you know, the tweets that you're having. Well, you know, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and at least giving us an introduction to Definitely Patriot. I definitely want to have you back in 3 or 4 weeks, both of you, to let you talk a little bit more in depth. But this is really great introduction for people and hear a little bit about you.
Well, thank you for having us, and we look forward to it.
Thank you so much. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for being a part of the Erin Cruz Show, and also being a part of the transformation of California back into the Golden State. I can't wait. All right, guys. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
We will return to the Erin Cruz Show in just a moment.
Juan Hidalgo, candidate for the 51st Congressional District. I'm also a local young man. I grew up in Nashville. And I actually grew up there, okay?
Yes.
I actually grew up there. My dad still lives in the same home. You know, and what I'm bringing back is real proven leadership. We need proven leadership that will work for all Americans. You go to our website, hidalgoforcongress.com, and go to Facebook, Hidalgo for Congress on Facebook, and you can message us. Come help us if you want. We have people.
And now, back to the Erin Cruz Show. Here's Erin Cruz.
Hello and welcome back to the Erin Cruz Show. This is the guest all of you have been waiting for. I've been talking about the surprise and special guest for days now, and I know y'all have been chomping at the bit, and maybe a few of you know who this might be because he's been on fire on social media, on Facebook, talking about coming on the Erin Cruz Show and, you know, uniting Patriots. It's just phenomenal. But here he is in the flesh. This is our special guest, Rafi Rabukas. He is founder of the Young Leaders PAC. He's a patriot. He's 13 years old. Amazing. Thank you and welcome to the Erin Cruz Show, Rafi.
Thank you for having me, Erin.
So tell us about your PAC. Tell us about everything about you. I'm so curious.
Definitely. So about the Young Leaders PAC, just founded it a little over a few months ago.
That's
and what we're working to do is inform the youth. We have a 3-point strategy. We need to inform the youth about the political atmosphere, encourage their participation, and elect independent legislators to represent us right here in the state of California and also in Washington, D.C. And I love telling the story about how I got involved. You know, I live right by the airport, so I would always see airplanes flying by my house.
Right?
Yes. And I became so obsessed with these airplanes. And my father, when I was in preschool, and my father would say, you know, if I completed all my assignments, I'd get an airplane on Friday at the end of the week. And each week it would be a new airplane. And one day he got me a model of Air Force One. Really? And I was just 5 years old, yes. And I didn't realize what this was. And I did my own research. I asked to use the computer and found out that that was the official airplane of the President of these United States. And it was from then where I found they had political parties. I first identified myself for a very, very short period of time with the Democratic Party, then the Constitution Party. And later, when I felt at just 6 years old that government's only responsibility is to ensure the safety of their constituents, I decided to affiliate myself at such a young age with the Republican Party. And, you know, I studied all the presidents, and, you know, I think that at such a young age I had such an aptitude for politics. And my first volunteer gig I could recall was in 2016 when I volunteered for a local Republican headquarters in Manhattan Beach.
Really?
And it was, yes, the Manhattan Beach Republican Women Federated. And it was through this organization where I got in contact with so many different candidates who were willing to unseat careless incumbents in our state and federal legislature, like Mr. Frank A. Scotto, who's running for California State Assembly, and Dr. Kenneth Weston Wright, running for United States Representative against Ted Lieu. And I've worked extensively in both campaigns over the last few months. Yes. And I was actually part of a student volunteer program for the Scotto for Assembly campaign.
Wow.
And there was a bunch of high school students, and I was so honored to be the only middle school student in the program. And we would have a guest speaker who knows so much about the political atmosphere, different consultants, different professors, and they would come talk to us about, you know, getting a career in politics and in government.
Well, I mean, but most kids would think this is boring. You know,
right.
most kids would think that this is, why would you want to be involved in that? Or why would you think that's interesting? But I've said this now 3 times on the show today. You know, if you're not interested in politics, I'm going to tell you, politics is always interested in you. and that's in the case of government, it's not their place to be, you know, as you've learned, you know, now affiliating yourself with the Republican Party, limited government. Yes. I mean, that's you know, national security is pretty much it. You know, that's where it's at. So, but most kids would think it's boring. You find it interesting.
Definitely. And, you know, I have a lot of my peers, not necessarily my friends, but a lot of colleagues at school talking about, you know, there was an old joke that one of my colleagues used to make where, like, I bet all the people who work at your headquarters are just old people and you're the youngest person, which, no way, I am. Surprise, surprise, I am the youngest. But, you know, I find so much pleasure. And part of the reason why I started this PAC was because we need to encourage the youth to get involved in the political atmosphere, or at least to learn about the political atmosphere. I think, you know, I derive so much joy and pleasure from working in different campaigns, from learning about what happens. Because if you think about it, you know, it's our government that sets the, you know, foundation by which, you know, they ensure our rights, and our government is our government's our government. And I think it is incumbent, you know, now, as both of us know, our legislature in California has been overrun by Democratic leadership for so long. 39 of the last 40 years.
Democrats. I like to call them the progressive left, because I think a lot of Democrats, you know, centrist Democrats, people who want, you know, have strong family values, and they're not associating with that crazy progressive left legislating straws, wanting to take, you know, parental choice and buying their child a sweet drink. Yes. You know, I mean, just out of control. You know, government has moved from being, you know, the national security infrastructure provider to being literally the nanny state. Actually, I think it wants to be mama dearest. Like, it wants to be the parent instead of being what it needs to be, which is removed. So you're talking to your peers, you're letting them know, you know, that politics can be interesting. And and that you're not alone, that there are other young people. I've seen a lot more young people joining and getting involved in the different volunteer groups. Is that true in LA where you're at?
That's right, yes. I've seen, not necessarily as young as I am, but I've seen a lot of high school students getting involved. Actually, a few friends of mine, I asked them for the first time ever. I never asked any of my colleagues to join me, but the first time I did that, I asked them, why don't you go precinct walking for me? It'll be fun. I know you want to... Why don't we do it for a good cause? And, now, they agree with me.
Do they lean in the same political direction you do, or?
I would say a lot of my peers are building we're building their political platforms right now. I will say that, I think the school system has tried to engage in a lot of liberal indoctrination.
Yes, absolutely.
And in part, that's what my PAC wants to fight for, because as many of us know, liberal indoctrination is not only at the colleges and universities or at high schools, it's actually trickling down to the age where our students are most vulnerable in the middle and elementary schools. And I think that's a real issue.
Like I was saying, government has gone from that point of being removed to wanting to be mommy and daddy. And literally, the indoctrination in the schools is a big problem. And I did notice on your website a very interesting section where you talk about that. You talk about school choice. You talk about some of those topics where you're you want to help influence or encourage the empowerment of the parent, as opposed to the government.
Definitely.
Yes.
With that, it relates to Common Core. I don't believe the United States government should have any business with what happens in our classrooms. I think that should be left to the school districts. That should be left to teachers to decide what curriculum is necessary for the growth and proficiency of their students. So I think that, and talking about, you ran for United States Senate and articulated that we need less tax and less regulations. Mm-hmm. And I think that the government, has no place or the federal government, to say the least, has no place in determining what should be going on in local classrooms. So I also agree with school choice, where our parents, your zip code does not determine your destiny. And our parents, they need to help us and guide us in making decisions. And that should not be at the responsibility of our federal, and definitely in our state not in our state government.
Right. The government has overstepped its bounds. So I'm so glad that, you as a young man, as a young influencer, are speaking up, because you have people's attention. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, is because I have seen far more, and I think I've had 4 guests now that are younger, and we're seeing more and more. The youth are waking up, and there's something happening across the nation. And I think part of it is your parents. Okay? Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't be where you're at or thinking how you are, and you definitely wouldn't be doing the things you're doing without your parents' involvement and support. But it's also, part of the climate out there. It's probably conflicting with what you're learning at home.
Yes. Definitely.
And you're not alone in seeing that trend, and we're seeing more and more of the youth come out, and I really think that older people especially, resonate with the younger people. You say, well, yeah, in those Republican clubs there are a lot of older people there, but yes, but they want to see the younger people there. The reason why they're there is because a lot of the younger people haven't been there, but they want more people involved. And who are they going to pay attention to? They're going to pay attention to you. When you speak at these clubs, I bet they listen.
Yeah, definitely. And I've gotten a lot of great responses.
Support,
I've had
I'm hoping.
Yes, definitely. I've, had the amazing privilege to speak at so many different engagements in the past few months. And it's just been a really great opportunity, and after I speak, I get to engage with the crowd, and I hear their stories,
Mm-hmm.
My son or grandson experienced indoctrination in college, and it's very disappointing, and frankly, it's disappointing and infuriating that the indoctrination is trickling down to our elementary schools and our middle schools. So definitely, that's part of how much joy I derive, talking to these people and hearing their stories. And, I love the energy that goes into politics. Politics is mainly associated with the connotation of, dirty, corrupt, boring. I have seen, I've made phone calls, I've gone precinct walking, I've seen the heart of politics inside of it. And I know that the politics is also full of caring individuals who know or who want to make a change and know what's best for their communities.
It is. And I think that what the negative is and the corruption is, there are always good people and bad people in this world. And I think a lot of the frustration from the general public is they don't feel or think that they have a way to take action.
Right.
And they're frustrated because when they do, or whatever it is that they are doing, it's not changing anything for the better. But when they see people like you and other young people influencing, taking action, doing what you can, it inspires people. And that's really what we need, is a true awakening, especially in California, of the people, for them to realize, I can't do it all. You can't do it all. Someone else can't do it all. All of us together, working hard, will make an impact. But if we all sit back and think we can't do anything, nothing will change. Nothing will happen. So I think that positivity that you see is partly when people get excited because they see you doing something, and it's phenomenal. Now, where are you wanting to go with this? I know that 2018 elections are coming, and you're really working forward. This isn't something you're just doing on a whim. I can see the passion in your eyes. Where are you going with this? Where do you see yourself going with this? Do you want to be a politician one day, or shall I say a patriot in office?
Definitely. So when I was 8 years old, I wrote to the man himself, Larry Elder, perhaps one of the most conservative minds, geniuses in the Republican Party. And I had the privilege of, frankly, a lifetime to be able to guest on his show at 8 years old. And
that's phenomenal.
It was from this day where I saw, what was happening to our country. And, at just a young age, I wanted to be able to make a difference. So I'm still holding on to that ambition. I would love to start local and eventually make my way up to the state legislature. I would love to serve in the United States Senate. Because I think that the Senate is perhaps the greatest legislative body in perhaps the world. And, to use my passion for everyday Californians into our national legislature, I think that would be a very big honor. And I always love to end my speeches whenever I speak at Dr. Ken Wright or even different local Republican organizations. I always like to end with, come 2048, and if our country is in need of new leadership, I will run for President of the United States.
That would be phenomenal.
It would be.
It would be phenomenal, and there's no reason why that can't be. Our country is hurting.
Yes.
And, Obama, I remember he ran on hope and change, and I know you were rather young at that point, but he ran on hope and change, and it seemed like, and I had a guest say this last week, they said, during Obama administration, a lot of people, they didn't just lose their jobs, they didn't just lose their homes, they lost hope, and they lost their dreams because the economy really, really suffered. And right now with President Donald Trump working so hard, we see actual hope. We see revitalization of our economy. We see some of the, reduction in policy, overburdening policies. We see so many great things happening, but we're still struggling. And when struggle happens, we have to work together. And I think that people reach out of their, bubble. And I think one of the best things that Obama did was wake up America. I believe that he brought us to the point where he realized not just Democrats and absolutely just not Republicans, but all of us, we have to actually change things. We have to actually get back to the place of limited government. And to the point where our youth, like you, are getting involved in politics. It's just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. And you'll be president one day.
I'm really looking forward to it, Miss Cruz. But I wanted to mention that a lot of people are still a little bitter towards the president. You know.
You mean President Trump?
President Trump, yes. Associating him with negativity. But if you look at any metric, our GDP is now at a whopping 4%.
They said it would.
Hispanic unemployment, African American unemployment, they're all at record lows.
Right.
And, Judge Pirro said it beautifully. You look at any metric by which what happened after President Trump was inaugurated, we see a lot of change. We do see a lot of hope, and we see that we have people, everyday people.
Energized.
Yes, I've ever from a young age, my parents emphasized the importance of hard work, and it was through their example I saw my father invested in this profession, and my mother as well, and this is why I affiliated myself with the Republican Party at such a young age, because the Republican Party, I hate to say it, but they actually care about the hardworking Californians. And I think what's happening with things like the gas tax, it's not healthy for everyday Californians who are working their fingers to the bone, and I don't believe we should be taxing them to death.
No. We already have some of the highest gas taxes in the nation, and as a matter of fact, that entire tax policy was based on a bunch of lies. They basically said that, X amount of money was going to come over a 10-year period. It's not even a fraction of what we actually need to cover infrastructure. And as a matter of fact, we're being taxed under the carpet by CARB. The way the legislature is doing things in California is well out of line, and we have to repeal the gas tax. I brought this up with a prior interview. Another thing that they're doing is they're writing these ballot initiatives to be confusing. They're confusing the populace. So if you want to repeal the gas tax, if people are listening right now to Rafi, he is a Young Leaders PAC founder. He's an amazing patriot. But if you're listening to this interview right now and you're interested in repealing the gas tax, getting that money back into your pocket, you need to vote yes on 6.
That's right.
You have to vote yes, I want to repeal the gas tax. That's why I'm saying it now, because what's going to happen is people are going to read it, and it's going to be absolutely misleading. That's right. Our government.
Yeah.
So we have to get back on track.
Yes, definitely. I heard Carl DeMaio speak at a local rally, and I was very moved by his message. We're taxed an awful lot in the state of California, and I'm not affected by income tax, but I know a lot of people who are and who are struggling with that, and I believe that California has a surplus, and as Travis Allen said, give it back to the Californian people, give it back to the citizens. We need tax breaks. We need to take away government regulations. And if you look at President Trump, what he's been doing, wiping off a lot of the Obama regulations,
oppressive regulations.
That's right, about I believe $3 billion or a lot more.
It's substantial.
Definitely, and I think that regulations as these hefty regulations don't help the people. In fact, they hurt the people, and I think that's why there's a lot of legislators in the state of California, in our assembly, in our state senate, who are advocating against the people who elect them into their offices. That's why I've been working for very much a lot of grassroots campaigns like Mr. Scotto's and like Dr. Wright's, because I believe that these are good people. I know Dr. Wright and I know Mr. Scotto personally, and the amount of passion and the amount of love they have for their communities will be extremely beneficial in the United States Congress and in California State Assembly.
Right, right. Well, and they have the same, they're aligned with the same vision from what I can see with your PAC and the PAC you founded. So, that's important. And the fact that you're talking about them in the way that you are, it speaks a lot to their character. I've met Dr. Ken Wright. He spoke at one of my rallies. He's an amazing man. He's done good work in his business and his profession, and he wants to serve his community and his country. And I think that's an admirable thing for someone to do, to step out and to essentially put their lives on hold. It's a big job, responsibility, and I'm really excited that he has somebody like you paired up with him to help him in his vision, and many, many others I know as well. I'd love to have the assemblyman candidate on the show as well. People want to hear. They want to hear how we get rid of the people who are wanting to legislate new straw initiatives and take away sweet drinks from babies. Right. They do. They want it, but they don't. Many times people don't even know who's running in their district, and they look down the ballot and they're confused, and they just vote D or R. But as we've seen with the walkaway movement, more and more people are realizing the D hasn't been serving us well. The D doesn't stand for family values, small business, reduced government, and all the things that especially businessmen and women and entrepreneurs stand for, which many Democrats are. So I'm hoping that people will wake up. Now, back to what you just said a little bit ago about regulations. Regulations are basically a pretext. It's before anything is done, any action is taken, anything is manufactured or they put in these regulations. That's like a pretext. And any time that the government talks about regulating something, you have to wince. It's true. And I'm glad that you recognize this as a young person, because you also said, and you mentioned that you don't, you're concerned right now, you're not in, you don't face an income tax. But you know what? Your parents do. And they're concerned with more regulations. More taxes means less food on your table, less opportunity for your future. It's a translation, and it impacts you. And the youth need to understand that just because it doesn't affect them right now, it's affecting them in some way.
Yes. So. And I think that, in part, the reason why the youth in America aren't necessarily open to Republican policies is because they associate it with Trump, President Trump. And in schools, we're actually being indoctrinated and forced to disagree with Trump, to not support him. And
That's shocking.
I've seen this indoctrination firsthand. And I think that,
That's appalling.
We can't... Right, I agree. We can't, and I've told a lot of my audience this, we can't stop the liberal indoctrination. It's already happening, but we can curb it. We can, and that's what my PAC is trying to do. We're trying to inform the youth about the political atmosphere and about conservative principles and conservative ideals on platforms that they use a lot, like social media, like different websites.
Reach them where they're at.
Yeah, we can't have a presence at school, but we can definitely, the Republican Party and conservatives can have a presence on social media and on the web.
Right, right. And in the case of your PAC, you can influence and support those candidates, which will further the initiatives and visions, what you talk about. Now, I want people to be able to get involved and to learn more about you and your movement. Can you repeat your name, your PAC information, and also share your website?
Definitely. My name is Rafi Rabukas. I'm the founder of the Young Leaders Political Action Committee. Our website is at www.rabukas.com. That's REBUCAS.com. And together we can reset California. I always like to say that, reset California. What does it mean? It means we need stronger border security. We need to stop liberal indoctrination, and we need to inform the youth and get them engaged in the political atmosphere. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and, you feel that you'd like to contribute, there's a donate bar in my website. Another thing is I feel it is incumbent upon modern-day adults to aid the youth in their journeys and political endeavors. So with that, I hope we can get your support. I thank you so much, Miss Cruz, for allowing me the opportunity on this show.
Absolutely.
And I had a very, it's been a pleasure to talk about.
Of course, absolutely. And we're going to have you on as the elections, we're really getting people familiar with the political groups that are out there, that the Patriot groups, different people are doing activism like you have a PAC. We want to unite people. So we're definitely going to have you back on if you'd be willing to come back on as we come forward towards the November elections, just to freshen it in people's minds. Such an important place to be, bringing the youth and engaging the youth. So we'd like to help, have you back on to help inspire.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for being on the Erin Cruz Show. Thank you again for joining us tonight on the Erin Cruz Show. We had wonderful guests. I'm hoping that you learned so much about each of the campaigns, as well as more information on how to get engaged in your community with people around you, with Patriots all across California, as well as across the nation. This is a unified effort we need to take the state back and to keep America great. God bless all of you. Please go to our website, erincruz.com. The information is right there at the bottom of the screen. Get involved. Sign up for our email list. If you can donate, that would be wonderful as well. We do this because we care about our country. We care about the state. We can't do it without your help. So thank you for being a part of Team Erin Cruz and Erin Cruz Army. And make sure that you stay unified. Make sure you stay focused for the years to come. This is a long haul, everybody. It's not just the here and now. God bless all of you.
To hear more and to learn more on how you can make an impact or about the Erin Cruz Show, visit us online at erincruz.com. That's erincruz.com. Thank you for joining us, and see you at the same time and the same place next week.